Good day, everyone. I am Gian Monilor and I am here to discuss some parts of Chapter 1. So, Chapter 1 is all about the key terms and concepts in managing and implementing standard based grammar teaching. So, before we're going to formally start our discussion for today, we have here an objectives. So, at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to first discuss the fundamental terms and concepts associated to the teaching and assessing of grammar. Second, identify the error correction and feedback in a certain context. For Chapter 1, there are 5 subtopics, which are grammar and grammaring, grammaticalizing or grammaticalization, error correction versus a feedback, spoken versus written grammar, and grammatical assessment. So for this discussion, let's tackle first the grammar and grammaring. What is grammar? So, grammar is the whole system and structure of a language or of languages in general. So, it means that before you can effectively form a language, it undergoes process, structures, and stages. So, from sounds to words, from words to sentences. So, it means that grammar is the study of sounds, the study of the word formation, the study of the sentence structure. So, it undergoes process in order for you to effectively use language in your daily communication. Grammar is what one knows about a language. So it pertains to our basic knowledge about a language. So such as phonology, which is the study of sounds, morphology, which is the study of the word formation, syntax, which is the study of the sentence structure, semantics is the study of the meaning of those words and sentences that you have formed. Pragmatics, it talks about the development of the literal and figurative meaning of those words and sentences, clauses, and phrases that you have formed from phonology to morphology to syntax. So while language skills are what we do with language, including with speaking, listening, writing, and reading. So, what we know about a language and what we do with language had sparked controversies about their blurry boundaries. That is, according to Benhima 2015. With the controversies that Benhima said, so it resulted to the development of different models that accounted to grammar. So because of that, grammar was then considered a method of teaching and learning a language in what we call grammar translation approach. So grammar translation approach pertains to L1 and L2. So according to a lot of studies, mastery of L1 or the mother tongue can help one to easily acquire the L2 or the target language. So with that, it views grammar as the core of the language or the backbone, because if we have the basic knowledge about the grammar, such as its rules, the proper way of using grammar, it helps us to easily deliver our opinions and thoughts to other people. It can help us to easily understand what is written in the internet, what is written in the book. We can easily understand what others are saying. So in that way, we can avoid misunderstanding with others and we can have a smooth communication with a lot of people. So again, what is grammar translation approach? Grammar translation approach is a method of teaching foreign languages derived from classical method of teaching Greek and Latin. So in grammar translation classes, students learn grammatical rules and then apply those rules by translating sentences between the target language and the native language. So as what I have said earlier, grammar translation approach pertains to the usage of L1 and the L2. So the students' mastery of L1 can help them to build a foundation of learning on how to effectively acquire the L2 or the target language. Because if the students have the basic foundation or mastery of L1, it is easier for them to translate those words into the target language. For example, you have a student from Cebu. So it means that their native language is Cebuano. So you will teach them about the grammar and language using grammar translation approach. So it means that at first you will teach them using Cebuano. So for example, you tell them puti nga sapatos, and then you will translate it into the target language. For example, your target language is English. So puti means white in English, sapatos means shoes in English. So in that way, your student will learn that puti is white in English and then sapatos is shoes in English. So with that, they can say that white shoes. Additionally, according to Larsen Freeman 2001, grammar should be seen as a skill rather than purely competence. Why is that so? So grammar should be seen as a skill because it needs mastery. Because mastery of grammar means that you already know the rules and proper way of using grammar. So in that way, you can effectively create a message or you can deliver your opinions to the public without grammatical errors. So in that way, people can easily understand what you are trying to say correctly. What is grammaring? So grammaring pertains to the process of doing grammar. So I am talking right now. So it means that I am in the process of using grammar. So I am using my basic knowledge or understanding about grammar. So such as from sounds to words to sentences. And then right now, I can deliver my opinions by the use of grammar. So according to Larsen Freeman 2001, he postulated that grammaring to be the fifth skill. So we all know that there are five macro skills such as speaking, listening, reading, and writing, and viewing. So Larsen Freeman postulated that the fifth skill should be the grammaring. So it should be speaking, listening, reading, writing, and grammaring. And he referred to grammaring as the ability to accurately, meaningfully, and appropriately use grammar structures. So when we talk about grammar structures, so it is from sounds to words to sentences, phrases, and clauses. So in grammaring, there are three practical activities. So these are focus on form, focus on meaning, and focus on use. So for the practical activities that are used in grammaring, let's tackle first the focus on form. In focus on form, a distinction is often made between language use and language form. In other words, there has been a continuous debate over whether to teach students the language or teach them about the language. So on focus on form, it is very important that before you are going to teach the student about the language, you should teach them about the basic background about that language in order for them to be knowledgeable about that language, for it to be easier for them to acquire that certain language. For the second practical activity, we have focus on meaning, linking focus on form with focus on meaning that can carried out by the use of different activities. In fact, meaning should call for some sort of associative learning. This activity gives students opportunity to associate the form with the meaning of a particular target structure. So if you are teaching your student about focus on form, which is about the background of a language, you should also provide them an explanation in order for them to have a deeper understanding. For example, your student is asking about cabbage. So it is very important that you should provide a picture of a cabbage in order for your students to picture out what cabbage looks like. And after that, you should also provide an explanation about the benefits of eating a cabbage. In that way, your students will have a background knowledge about the cabbage. That is focus on meaning. For the third and last practical activity, we have focus on use. The right form with the right meaning should be selected for the right context to ensure successful communication. So it is very important that from the focus on form and focus on meaning, you have a correct understanding about it in order for you to effectively use it in your day-to-day life. So, a practical way of going about sensitizing students to the effect of context language is through making use of role playing. Because through role playing, they can use a real life context. So, it is easier for them to acquire and understand that certain role play because it is relevant to their life. For the second subtopics of chapter 1, we have grammaticalizing or grammaticalization. So what is grammaticalizing or grammaticalization? So when we talk about grammaticalizing or grammaticalization, it involves the process of language change. But before we're going to dig deeper about grammaticalizing or grammaticalization, let's know first who introduced the concept of grammaticalization. So French linguist Antoine Bellet introduced the concept of grammaticalization in his 1912 study entitled El Evolution, These Forms Grammaticalization. According to Kruf 2006, grammaticalization is described as the process by which grammar is created or the study of this process. For example, in grammar, you studied about sounds, the word formation, and the sentence structure. So in grammaticalization, you will use what you have learned from grammar in order to create a message that has an application of the correct usage of grammar. For example, the subject-verb agreement. So in subject-verb agreement, if your subject is singular, automatically your verb is singular too. But if your subject is plural, your verb should also be plural. So that is about the grammaticalization. So it is also the language process change by which words representing objects and actions. For example, nouns and verbs becomes grammatical markers such as affixes, prepossessions, and many more, which results in the creation of function words through a process other than deriving them from existing bound and inflectional constructions, but instead derive them from content words. For example, the Old English verb, which is willan, which means to want or to wish, has become the modern English auxiliary verb, which is will, which means expresses futurity. So grammaticalization, in addition, it involves reduction and increased dependency. So reduction is also known as phonetic erosion or phonological reduction, which is an expression in linguistics that loses phonetic substance if it undergoes grammaticalization, which means it loses some phonemes. So a well-known example of grammaticalization is that of the process in which the lexical cluster, which is let us. For example, let us eat. So it is reduced to become let's. So it becomes let's eat. So that is grammaticalization. So, there are four types of grammaticalization. These are semantic bleaching, morphological reduction, phonetic erosion, and obligatorification. For the first type of grammaticalization, we have semantic bleaching. So, semantic bleaching or desemanticization has been seen as a characteristic of grammaticalization. It can be described as the loss of all grammaticalization. Bleaching refers to the loss of all or most lexical content of an entity while only its grammatical content is retained. For example, you have one word, so you will use that one word in a sentence. But then, in another sentence, you won't use that word anymore. But then, the two sentences still have the same meaning. So that is semantic bleaching. For example, the word thing and shit. So the word thing used to refer to an assembly or council, but in time it came to refer to an thing. While in modern English slang, the same development has been affecting the word shit, whose basic meaning is physis, has broadened to become synonymous with thing or stuff. So for example, don't touch my things. So it became don't touch my shit. So second example, I've got a lot of things to take care of this weekend. So it became I've got a lot of shit to take care of this weekend. For the second type of grammaticalization, we have morphological reduction. So once a linguistic expression has changed from a lexical to a grammatical meaning or bleaching, so for example, we have the word let us eat from semantic bleaching. So it become let's eat. So it loses some morphemes, which is us. So it is likely to lose morphological and syntactic elements that were characteristics of its initial category, but which are not relevant to the grammatical function. So this is called decategorialization or morphological reduction. For example, we have the word that demonstrative and that complementizer. So in demonstrative, we have I saw that. So it means that one person must saw something. And then the second sentence is he went there. So there's a particular person that goes to a direction. And then in complementizer, it became I saw that he went there. So from demonstrative that has two sentences and different meaning. So in complementizer, the two sentences with different meaning complemented. So it became one sentence with one meaning. The third type of grammaticalization, we have phonetic erosion. Phonetic erosion, which is also called as phonological attrition or phonological reduction, is another process that is often linked to grammaticalization. It implies that a linguistic expression loses phonetic substance when it has undergone grammaticalization. So it means that one word might lose some phonemes. That is phonetic erosion. For example, the word going to, it became gonna, or even I am going to, it became I'm gonna. So the word I'm gonna became I'm a. So another example, because, it turns to cause. So that is phonetic erosion. For the last type of grammaticalization, we have obligatorification. So obligatorification is when a content word is used in a specific context in a specific way. It may become more grammatical over time. So from the word obligatorification, it means necessary or necessity. For the third subtopic of chapter 1, we have error corrections versus feedback. So first, let's tackle the difference between mistake and error. So mistakes usually refer to slips students commit which they correct themselves once pointed out to them. So for example, the students mispronounce a word. So in order for the students to know that he or she mispronounced the word, you will find a way in order for you to repeat the word with the correct pronunciation. So in that way, the student will learn. And then what is error? So errors, these are mistakes which the students cannot correct themselves and therefore need an explanation. For example, the subject-verb agreement. So your student make a sentence with a singular subject and plural verb. So that is error. So in order for your student to know when to use singular and plural, you will explain to them the subject-verb agreement. So next, we have the word feedback. So feedback is a helpful information or criticism that is given to someone to say what can be done to improve a performance or either a compliment to someone who has performed. So there are two types of feedback, the negative and positive feedback. What is positive feedback? So positive feedback confirms a student's response correctness. For example, confirmation. So the teacher might say, I like the way you pronounce a fable. Can you try it once more so that it sounds more like it is pronounced in target language? So in that way, your student will learn how to pronounce the word correctly without you offending them. So second is praise, so such as amazing, bravo, excellent, good work. So in that way, you will compliment your students' performance so that they will be able to boast their confidence and self-esteem. So third, teachers request to repeat. So teachers upload students in front of the class. So every time you ask your students to perform something, you should upload them in order for them to feel that you appreciate their performance. So that's all for grammar and grammaring, grammaticalizing or grammaticalization, error corrections versus feedback. So I hope you learned something and thank you for listening.